Okay, so it's a beautiful, cold, dreary, awful afternoon on the 12th of December 2023, and I am, as promised, going to take you through the assignment for assignment for give you an advice video, give you the benefit of my years of experience of doing this, and basically tell you how to get a really good mark in this as well. It's a little bit of a complicated assignment. It is an essay basically, but there are other elements to it. So I'm just going to go through each of those in turn, and then I'm really quickly going to go through each question, focusing on what a really good answer to each of those questions would actually have in it. So hopefully this will be easy to follow. If it's not, play it again. And if it still isn't, then obviously contact me. And if you've got any questions, I'd be happy to help you out with them. So, most important thing, first of all, the due date is 11th of January 2024. Just keep that in mind. Very, very important. Obviously, you want to submit on that date. Don't submit any other date, or unless you've got extenuating circumstances for it, then you can. I don't want to get into that whole thing. But the due date is 11th of January 2024, 2 p.m. This is the outline of the assignment. You can find this on Canvas as well. So, for this assignment, you will be required to submit a 500-word essay plan and 2,000-word essay, fully referenced with a bibliography. Bibliography does not count towards the word count. In addition, you will need to submit a short 100-word statement of how you've acted upon your feedback from previous assignments in this module in the completion of this work. Submit this after the bibliography, and this will not count towards the word count overall. All right, let's unpick that. All right, so first thing, you're going to be submitting a 500-word essay plan, and I'll get onto that in a second. And then a 2,000-word essay. Now, the word count for the essay begins with the first word of the essay and ends with the final word of the essay. I'm not counting the bibliography, I'm not counting the title. It's just those words in that actually make up the body of the essay. The bibliography doesn't count, the title doesn't count. Okay, and obviously the essay plan doesn't count because it's got its own word count. And you'll need to submit a short 100-word statement of how you've acted upon feedback from previous assignments. Now, that's something some people will struggle with and historically have. You can do this in two ways. If you want to look at your assignment 2 feedback, you can copy and paste it and then write 100 words on what you've done to address that feedback in this essay, basically. If you just like to do 100 words, that's fine. You can do that as well. You can do this. You can listen to your feedback for assignment 3 and use that as well. Basically, I want to see, what advice have we given you and what you've done about it. And even if it's only good stuff, I want you to tell me, how you've built on that good stuff and how you made sure that you're doing the good things in the future as well. Very, very straightforward. You are assessed on all parts of it. If there's something missing, if the essay plan's not there, if the feedback statement isn't there, if I will pick that up. That's gonna be in your feedback for this. You haven't done all the parts of it. If the 2,000-word essay's not there, then that's going to be a much, much bigger issue, I would say. Now, the plan itself. The plan should be a clear outline of what you intend to do for the essay. Now, you can do that as bullet points in a text document, however you want to do it, or as a visual plan of your essay. If you want to do a mind map, that's absolutely fine. If you want to do it on paper with like felt tip pens and stuff like that, you don't want to do it on a computer, that's fine. Just take a picture of it and attach it to the file. Copy and paste it into your Word document. Absolutely fine. I don't care how you do it. I just want to see that you have planned this thing. 500 words is the maximum word count. I don't expect it to be 500 words. It's an essay plan. It's not an essay itself. I just want to see that you've clearly planned out all the sections, what sources you've used, etc. All right, I want to see that you've put some actual planning into each of these sections, because that's something you should be doing for every essay that you do at university level. You need to plan out your work in this way. I'm not going to be giving it like a grade on its own, but if I can see that you've done a plan and you've followed that plan and it's been executed well, that will reflect in your final grade. What are the essential things for this assignment? Well, your essay clearly answers the question. And I think, all right, well, why wouldn't I? Well, you'd be surprised how many people actually don't answer the question. They either take an essay question and answer their own damn thing, or they just completely miss the point of it. So you must clearly answer the question from the outset. If you're struggling with how to answer the question, you can get in touch with me, or indeed, watch this video, right? Because that's kind of what I'm going to be doing in this video in a short while. You must have a clear argument, which needs to be stressed in your introduction, which therefore the introduction needs to be written towards the, as one of the last things you do in the essay so that that argument makes sense. You must therefore use the body of the essay to support that argument that you've made from well-chosen examples and academic literature. I don't want to see any web stuff here. I don't want you to use Google and just find the first couple of websites that answer this question for you. Academic sources only. And you must provide a balanced account. So you must consider criticisms of your argument and show clearly why you favour your argument over those critiques. Classic way that we do critical thought. Essay answers will be failed if they merely contain general discussions of what you can remember, your own random thoughts, and a set of opinions that aren't supported by detailed facts and arguments. And again, you might think, Leighton, why are you telling me this? Why are you patronising me? And it's like, well, because I like patronising people, number one. But two, much more importantly than that, I get loads of essays like this. In this module, there's like 90 of you on this module, and if I convert that from the percentage that I'm thinking of, about 15 people are going to hand in an essay which has these characteristics. Basically a general discussion and some random thoughts and some opinions with no academic evidence. And they're just going to be failed. They're going to get like 20. Okay, that's not an academic essay in any way, shape or form. Academic essay answers are expected to contain accurate, detailed information about the facts of a subject, detailed references to discussions of and arguments drawn from critical literature, so academic material, and a critical conclusion based upon those things that you have put in there. That's what an academic essay is. Now remember, in lecture 3, I went through the structure of essays with you in that lecture. I know it was a long time ago, and I know it was extremely dull and incredibly boring, and you weren't listening and you wanted to die. Go back and look at the recording of it, because I've been through all this stuff, okay? On to the questions. So exciting. I'm proud to be here. I'm happy to be here. Question number 1. Explain how discourses work to legitimize the ideologies of ruling elites in society with reference to one particular form of media discourse. Now, what I'm going to do here is something really, really revolutionary. I'm going to use a pen and I'm going to underline things. So, number 1, discourses. Check it out, people. What I want you to do is focus on how discourses work to legitimize the ideologies of ruling elites. That I've covered extensively in this module. Again, go back over the lectures. All of them have been recorded. All of them are up on Canvas, right, in the Panopto video section. What I want you to do in this essay is outline firstly what those key terms are. So you've done for assignment 3, you've done the whole thing about definitions. I want you to go into it in that kind of detail with reference to academic material, what these terms are all about, okay? And then you're going to use examples afterwards to illustrate how one particular form, keyword, one particular form works to legitimize the ideologies of a ruling elite. Now, if you want my way of answering this, what I would look at is perhaps Hollywood romantic comedies. Okay, how do Hollywood romantic comedies work to legitimize the ideologies of ruling elites in societies? What do Hollywood romantic comedies actually tell us? That the route to happiness in life is to marry a man, and then you will be wealthy and successful. So it's legitimizing patriarchal ideas, and it's legitimizing ideas of capitalism. Those are ideologies of the ruling elites in society. And basically these films create discourses which legitimize those ideologies. Okay, so in this essay I'm going to talk about, okay, where does this idea come from? It comes from Marx's concept of the ideal state being made up of a superstructure and base. People at the base control the means of production, including the control of the means of production of media. Their ideological positions, which are, capitalism, patriarchy, etc., they need to legitimize those ideologies, so they produce cultural products which legitimize them. We, as citizens in that state, then accept those ideologies, and that feeds back through, and then more and more of it gets produced. Okay, easy peasy. Been through it in all the lectures. You can do this via film discourse. You can do it via newspaper discourse, which is really, really easy. Especially if you're doing the journalism, media, and communication degree, you should be looking at newspaper discourse. Look at how newspapers in this country legitimize capitalism, how they legitimize, ideologies such as, patriarchal ideologies, etc. Really, really straightforward. Any reading of this from the course textbook will give you 101 ideas about how you can go about answering this question. Okay, so engage with some reading, come up with what discourse you're going to talk about, develop your examples, easy, easy peasy. This should be really, really straightforward for you guys. Question 2. This question is really easy. Okay, Theodore Adorno famously claimed that all mass culture is identical. Critically evaluate this claim with reference to a film genre of your choice. Now, if you remember the lecture I did on this, which I think was lecture 6 of the module, I went through Adorno's claim that all mass culture is identical with reference to the two key terms that you will need to deploy here: pseudo-individualization and standardization and pseudo-individualization, to put them in the correct order. And I talked about the toasters in the lecture. And everyone remembers the goddamn toasters. I don't want you to talk about toasters. I want you to talk about a film genre. And I basically want you to outline how, in this all mass culture is identical, we work in what Adorno calls the culture machine, the cultural industry. All culture is a factory where we just mass produce cultural products. So, for example, if you looked at the horror genre and you're looking at genre conventions, it means that basically all horror films end up being kind of the same as one another with the same message. All romantic comedies end up being kind of the same. All Disney films tell the same thing. All Star Wars films are the same film. All Marvel movies are the same movie. And you can actually talk about those things in this essay because all mass culture is identical. And obviously, in this as well, you're going to critique this idea of all mass culture is identical. So I've also provided a critique to it in the lecture itself as well. Let's go back over the lecture, make sure you understand all the points, do some reading around Adorno, go to the course textbook that I've given you for free on this, and it will add in all the gaps. This is a very, very good question to answer. People tend to do really, really well on this question. Question 3. You are not the customer of digital media. Explain and critically evaluate this claim with reference to two digital media companies. This relates to lecture 5 of the course. So basically the two questions that came before, the first one, lecture 3, the one after that, lecture 6. This is lecture 5. You're not the customer of digital media. And you're not the customer of digital media. As I said in the lecture, you are the product of digital media. You're not the customer. In that lecture, and there's an extended set of slides for you on Canvas on this, which adds more detail. What I do is outline how we have been positioned as the customer of digital media to be sold to advertisers. So you just explain what that is. That'll take up actually quite a bit of the essay explaining that, and critically evaluate that claim with reference to two digital media companies. Now, when people see critically evaluate, sometimes they look at that and think, oh, that means I've got to criticize that claim. I've got to make it look like it's not what it is. I've got to show how it's wrong. No, critically evaluate means discuss this with reference to actual academic research. So I want you to talk about two digital media companies. You might want to talk about Meta, for example, and the Instagram platform. You might want to talk about Google. You might want to talk about TikTok. You might want to talk about Amazon. You might want to talk about Apple. You might want to talk about Microsoft. Any two digital media companies like that would be ideal for this, and how they transform us from people into products to be sold. All of it is in lecture 5. I literally banged on about this stuff for 2 hours in lecture 5. You just have to contextualize that in academic research, which I've provided in the lecture, but also you need to do some research around yourselves as well. So it shouldn't be too difficult to do. Question 4. To what extent is contemporary culture simply a process of producing and consuming ourselves continuously? Assess this claim with reference to two social media platforms. Spoiler alert, the two social media platforms you need to talk about here are Instagram and TikTok. Maybe Snapchat if you want to get into it, but I would talk about Instagram and TikTok in this. Again, this relates to material from question 5, where basically what we are led to do is keep on producing information about ourselves and then look at other content which is produced by other users and then copy and mimic that content. So we're doing this over and over and over. We're in a constant feedback loop of media production of this sort. Again, go to lecture 5. Again, I want this to be a critical essay, so you have to engage with the academic literature that I did in the lecture and do your own reading around it. Now, spoiler alert, this question, I was kind of tempted to remove this question this year, but I've left it on. I think I'll remove it next year. This is a tough question. I wouldn't personally advise that people do this question. If you're interested in this kind of material, I would do question 3, not question 4. If you're super energized by this question and you remember it from the lecture and it's something you want to explore, by all means go for it. But this is probably the toughest question out of them all because it's a hard question to answer. Because people kind of get lost and they don't use academic material enough to justify it being an academic essay. So you have to make sure you use lots of academic material in it. But I mean, it's a good question to do. It's a toughie. So, you know, if you're looking for an easy life, you probably want to do something different to question 4. Question 5, the old classic. What did Marshall McLuhan mean when he stated that the medium is the message? Make reference to at least 2 different mediums in your answer. Oh my God, this question is so easy. As long as you actually get this bit of it right. And you'll remember from the lecture that one of my criticisms was that people don't get this bit of it right. They get it wrong. People are terrible. People are awful things. People are awful human beings. People need to be shut down. We don't need people. We don't want people. People are horrible. It's the worst thing in the world. People get this wrong. As long as you get it right, and I tell you how to get it right in the lecture, this is actually a reasonably straightforward question. But remember also that you need to be critical of this claim. So reserve part of your answer to a critique of Marshall McLuhan's claim, which you can find in the module textbook. You know, see, I'm repeating a sort of theme here about all this stuff, and I want you to make reference. Now, I've had loads of answers to this question in the past, which make reference to like 1 medium or no mediums. So make reference to at least 2. Now, if you're going to do some proper research around this, you will get hold of a copy of Marshall McLuhan's Understanding Media, the book in which this claim is stated. In that, he makes reference, you know, there are chapters and chapters on different mediums. You can just read some of his chapters on these things, on television, on radio, and other stuff that he talks about in that. And that will kind of do the work for you. But you do have to make reference to at least 2 different mediums, and you have to be critical of McLuhan's claim itself, which is fairly easy to do. It's not a huge amount of extra work that needs to be doing. It's not extra work at all anyway. This is work that you have to do for essays. But there's not a huge amount of work that needs to go into this to produce a good answer, I don't think. Question 6, use semiotic theory and key terminology from semiotic theory. I've had to outline that you actually need to use the key terminology to analyze the meaning of the campaign literature below. Now, I've reproduced the question here, but it's not below, it's to the left because it's a whole thing. And I wanted my head over this side of the screen, right? And I wanted that. Wait there, now I wanted it over there, right? Yeah. And now I'm going all blurry. That side, okay. So here is a peach of a piece of campaign literature. This is taken from the 2016 Brexit referendum by the Vote Leave group. The Leave EU group, not Vote Leave. That's very important to distinguish between those. And this is the breaking point, the infamous breaking point poster. What I want you to do is use semiotic theory, so discussions about sign and how that's a signifier and signified. I want you to use Barth's terminology around connotation and denotation to break down this poster, to deconstruct the key signs in this poster, which are the text at the top, breaking point, the image of the people there and what that represents, and how, in terms of Barth's concept of the myth, how this relates to a particular ideology, and indeed how historically this relates to a very important example, because this is basically a copy of a piece of propaganda used by Nazi Germany and Goebbels in the 1930s to envisage how Jews were invading. I want you to basically pull all this apart. There are key signs in here. The people are a key sign. The text is a key sign. The fact that it's in the countryside and the countryside is green is a key sign. You need to get into the meaning of all these and how these are combined together, because the key thing with semiotics, as I said in the lecture, is how all signs are used to construct a meaning. So how all these things are put together to construct a particular meaning, which relates to a particular ideology, and that process is called the myth, right? How the meaning relates to an ideology, that's the myth of it. So what is the myth of this year? It's not even subtle, this, right? The myth being told you is that we are being invaded, basically. You know, this is an invasion of people. You need to say, who is this invasion by, and, you know, etc. You know, what signs are being used to do this. If you even just look this poster up online, you will see academic material that gives you a lot of the context for doing this. You know, good answers for this. Actually do some research into the poster, to the reactions to the poster, and what's been written about this poster. So, you know, this is a good one to do, but you must use semiotic theory and key terminology. If I ever see an essay again saying, the font is in red, which means it's danger, I am going to kick my desk out of the window. Okay, semiotic essays are not about telling me obvious stuff. You have to employ the theory in doing this. Question 7. This relates actually to the lecture I delivered this morning. Assess whether classic audience theories such as the hypodermic needle theory and the two-step model are outdated and cannot offer adequate explanation of contemporary audience behavior. Spoiler alert, they can't. What do you need to do in this? You need to outline what theories are. Now, I haven't given you an outline of how many theories to talk about, but in the question I've named 2. If you just look at those 2, that's fine. You may look at Stuart Hall's as well, the active audience theory. You may look at uses and gratifications model, whichever ones you're comfortable with. Explain why they're outdated and cannot offer an adequate explanation of the contemporary audience behavior. That's the second half of the lecture I delivered this morning. That basically, in these models, we have a picture of people as either being passive audience members, or even if they're active, they're not at the center of the media themselves, whereas we now exist in an environment when our relationship to media technology is we have been placed at the center of the media world. Media is all about us. It is tailored towards us, whereas even something like Stuart Hall's active audience theory sees us at the end point of the transmission of a message. Now we're in a position where we're creating messages, we're interpreting messages, and all messages are tailored towards our personal needs and our desires and what we like in the media. So the media environment is completely changed in that way. So basically, you know, I've covered it all today. There's loads of good information on audience theory in the course textbook. This is a fairly straightforward answer, but it would be very useful if you actually look at my lecture today and look at some of the additional reading I've given you from Will Merrin as well. And indeed, look back at chapter 6, which I got you to do for assignment 2, because a lot of the answers to this are in there. And finally, explain the concept of media by William Merrin in 2014, not from the Media Studies 2.0 book though. The link to this paper is on Canvas, and how this concept challenges historical models and theories of audience behavior. Just read Will's paper. I've put the link to it on Canvas. Read the paper. You will be absolutely fine. There will be no problems with this whatsoever. Okay, this is a really easy answer in many ways, but it does involve you having to do your own research on this. You know, it's not some, you won't find this stuff in the course textbook so much. You will in this have to outline Will's concept. You will have to outline what traditional audience theories have done, and then illustrate how Will's concept challenges those theories, basically. You know, so it should be quite straightforward, I hope. I don't think I need to say any more. You know, this is nearly 25 minutes of me blathering on a Tuesday afternoon. I'm tired. I want to go home. So, you know, if you have any direct questions about any of these, please get in touch with me. But otherwise, good luck with it. I'm sure you're all going to do great. You know, you're fine people, you're fine individuals. It's been a pleasure, you know, teaching you this semester, and let's hope, you know, I want you all to do really well in this assignment and go forward from MS 100 with really good grades. So yeah, I hope you found this helpful, and if you haven't found it that helpful, then please do get in touch and ask me further questions, because it's kind of what I'm paid to do. You know, that's my job, you know, and I'm happy to do it as well. I might well be paid for it, and it might well be my job, but I am happy to do it as well. I will read drafts over the Christmas period. Sometimes I'll be off, so, you know, if it's a delay of a couple of days, do bear with me, but I'm happy to read drafts of your work. I'm happy to give you feedback on those drafts. I'm happy to help you improve your work as you go through, and you know, everything will be fine. It'll all be good. I'm happy. Life is great. Wonderful. See you guys.